In an effort to bridge the gap between black media and the White House, the National Newspaper Publishers Association recently held a meeting. The National Newspaper Publishers Association shares content with over 200 newspapers and over 20 million readers. Here to give us more insight on that meeting is Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor Burns, what reason was this meeting even initiated?
Well, it was initiated, Nietzsche, by DC operative Raynard Jackson, who was contacted by the NNPA, and the NNPA had declared to Mr. Jackson that they felt it was difficult gaining access to the Trump administration, and that they wanted to have a meeting with the press secretary to establish that relationship. Again, as you state, the NNPA represents over 200 black newspapers in America with a weekly readership of over 20 million African Americans. And so then Mr. Jackson contacted me to see if I can help facilitate this meeting with the White House. And so I made a phone call to the White House, and within a day or so, the NNPA, some of the members of the NNPA was at the White House and the Vice President's office, meeting with Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham, Principal Press Secretary Hogan Gitley, and the Vice President's Deputy Press Secretary Miller. It was an extreme.
Okay, so where actually is the breakdown between the press and the White House? Where is the breakdown?
Well, I think that the community, the African American community, just really don't know the great things that the president has done and is doing for the African American community. I mean, if you're going to talk about the African American community, you should communicate directly with people who have an African American audience, and that's what the NNPA does. This is not about whether the NPA supports the president or not. This is about getting the message of the great things the president has done and is doing for the African American community. Many people don't know that when the president first took office, that he signed an executive order giving billions of dollars to HBCUs, historically black colleges and university. He just did an amazing speech at their annual convention. Many people don't know that over 98% of people released from prison because of the First Step Act are African Americans. Remember, we have over 1 million African Americans in prison today, partly due to the 1994 Bill Clinton crime bill and the Joe Biden crime bill led by Democrats. And so many people don't know of the opportunity zones that the president is doing that is helping creating jobs and giving an all-time historically unemployment rate within the African American community, or that black people are owning our own businesses. This is done to
Was this meeting successful? They
Absolutely.
met. Was this meeting successful? And what can we expect from this point?
Well, what we can expect is that now the NNPA members of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the 200 black newspapers, now have a direct access to this White House so that they can have access to the president. They have access to getting quotes from the press secretary. They have access to White House events where they didn't have prior before. I wanted to make sure personally that the NNPA was treated with respect and the respect that they deserve, being an extremely powerful voice to the African American community. And it's just the beginning. We'll now see the president's voices and his speeches and his communications directly from the horse's mouth, not heard from second party or third party news outlets, but hearing directly from the president and this White House.
Pastor Mark Burns, thank you so much as always for joining us today, and we'll chat with you soon.